It's been really cool to be back in the fold. And, to a certain extent, I never leave Snake because I do all these Comic Cons and I'm talking like this all day to everyone. So, uh, Snake is with me on a daily basis, but it was really cool to, for like Delta, they brought me in to re-record a few lines, talk about new controller things or whatnot. And I have to match my voice exactly the way it was 20 years ago. And
And there we
Mikkel,
go.
before you go,
Yes.
one more thing.
Okay.
Mikkel, you're pretty good.
What's up, everybody? Mekel Kasanova here, Hawaii content creator, and I'm here to talk today about none other than Metal Gear Solid Delta Snake Eater. Now, off top, I got to give a special thank you to Konami for providing me a review code for the game on Xbox, and also got to play this on the PlayStation 5 due to the collector's edition I have here, and also on PC because I picked it up for cheap on Green Man Gaming. So if you want to pick it up, links will be down in the description down below. But I really got to say, man, I have so thoroughly enjoyed going back to play this game. I remember playing Metal Gear Solid 3 Snake Eater back in 2004 when I had it on PlayStation 2 and I was playing it with my dad back in the day. And man, we just had so much fun playing that game. And when Subsistence came out a year later, man, we just went back in and it was a completely different experience. I don't know how many of you guys have had the chance to experience it back in the day. Obviously, you can experience it now with the Metal Gear Solid Legacy Collection Volume 1, which I think Volume 2 should be coming soon. I don't know. I haven't heard anything officially from Konami, but nonetheless, I would expect if we're going to say Volume 1, then Volume 2 has got to be on its way down the road at some point. But nonetheless, Metal Gear Solid 3 just holds a special place in my heart because it was way more grounded coming off of Metal Gear Solid 1 and 2, or more so 2 than 1. And it gave us that background of the villain or quote unquote villain of the series, Big Boss, who we thought up to that point was the villain. It really humanized him and really showcased to us how much Jack is like David. Jack is the name of Big Boss, aka Naked Snake, and David is the name of none other than Solid Snake himself. And so it was really cool, just really, getting to deal with a whole new team from SIGINT to Paramedic, Eva, Major Zero or Major Tom. It was just so cool getting to experience that back in the day. And it just felt like I was playing Metal Gear Solid 1 all over again, but just, set during post World War II, post Cold War as well. And so it was really fun getting to play that back in the day. And now I got to talk about the new game that came out 20 plus years later, which is crazy for me to be able to say, wow, man, 20 something years later, I'm playing this. But it is what it is, right? So playing this, I had a blast. I got to stream this on my YouTube and TikTok channel. If you haven't already followed me on YouTube as well as on TikTok. And I was playing the PC version as well as the Xbox version. And I just had an absolute blast. Like, it's been over literally 10 years since the last Metal Gear Solid, like a mainline entry came out. I mean, Survive came out. I reviewed it. I enjoyed it. I know a lot of people didn't enjoy that, but that's neither here nor there because I don't really care what other people think about something as long as I'm having fun. Or if I'm not having a good time, I'm going to talk about it. So that's what we're doing. We're talking about it. So nonetheless, I had a lot of fun playing that about, I want to say 8 years ago. I think that's when Survive came out. It was about 8 years ago. I played that and I enjoyed it, but I really enjoyed playing Metal Gear Solid 5, with the exception of the fact that it didn't have David Hayter in the role of Big Boss or Punish Venom Snake, which is, definitely an oversight. But nonetheless, I'm happy that my friend David Hayter, yes, I'm friends with him. If you haven't already, check out that interview I did with my good friend David Hayter, the voice of Solid Snake and Big Boss in the Metal Gear Solid franchise. Yeah, like, I enjoy playing that, but then, over the last couple years, I've just been wanting a new Metal Gear, and then we got the Legacy Collection, which was phenomenal. I enjoy getting to go back and relive Metal Gear Solid 1, 2, and 3, even though I already had those. I had them. It's part of the what was it, the Master Collection? No, was it the Legacy Collection? Whichever one came out on PlayStation 3, it had everything, right? So I played on there. It didn't have portable ops, but I played there. And I really, I always go back and I play that every so often. And then getting to relive it on the Switch as well as on PlayStation 5 was really cool. But then I was like, man, it'd be cool to have a new entry. And I really feel like them putting this out, because I understand how game companies work. When they put out collections, they literally are doing that to see if there is vested interest in a game coming back. Like, hey, is there a market for this for us to remake it? And obviously, they were already making Delta as it is. And a lot of people were like, why remake 3 when you could have remade 1 and 2, or, Metal Gear 1 and 2, or a Solid 1? Well, the thing is, the most beloved entry is Snake Eater. So why not do that? Second to that would be Metal Gear Solid 1. And they've already remade Metal Gear Solid 1, which was the Twin Snakes, which a lot of people hate. I love it, but it is what it is. And nonetheless, so Delta's here. And I'm going to talk about how it was playing this, because graphically, this is made in Unreal Engine versus the Fox engine, which is what Metal Gear Solid 5. And the game looks absolutely fantastic. The textures and whatnot, regardless of whether you're playing this on PlayStation 5, Xbox Series S or X, or if you're playing this on PC, it just looks great. Now, obviously, playing it on PC, you get the max benefit. Like, I played it online. I had it running at 4K, highest frame rate, ultra settings across the board. And honestly, I didn't have any hiccups. I know there's a conversation out there that's been going around, and I'm seeing a lot of these YouTube videos where people are saying this game performed horribly and they're having all these issues, or they don't recommend it. I'm going to say this as someone who's played this on PC, both handheld PC and my gaming desktop and my gaming laptop, as well as someone who's played this on Xbox Series S and X and on PlayStation 5 and PlayStation 5 Pro. I have had no issues whatsoever. And I'm not just saying that because I got a review code from Konami. I actually was playing the game on PC before I got the code for it on Xbox and before I got my collector's edition for PlayStation 5. So I didn't run into any issues with it. I ran it at max settings. It ran perfectly fine. I had no stuttering, no hiccups. And my gaming desktop has a 4080 in it. So I don't know. I don't know what to tell you. I didn't have any issues. So for me, running on the PC, no issues whatsoever. I didn't have any frame rate dips or anything like that when I ran it on the Xbox Series S and Series X. Like on the Series S, it ran fine. On the Xbox Series X, I was able to run it at 4K with the 60 frames per second. I didn't have any issues with that whatsoever. It looked great. Plus with HDR too, it looked phenomenal on my monitor as well as on my living room gaming TV. And then when I played on PlayStation 5 and 5 Pro, I didn't run into any issues either. So I know there's a conversation about performance. I just cannot speak to it being something that I personally experienced with it because I didn't run into any issues with the performance. So if you guys want to, hoot and holler and all that down in the comment section, you can, but I'm just saying I didn't personally have any issues with the performance. Now, graphically, like I said, it looks great. The character models look phenomenal. The foliage and everything when you're out in the forest, the details on the buildings, everything just looks great. Now, does it look super realistic? No, because this is in the Metal Gear style. But nonetheless, it still looks good for honestly what it is. It's a great looking game. And honestly, one of the most fun games I've had for this year. Now, is this going to be a Game of the Year contender? That's a close call. We've got a lot of bangers coming out. And with Silent Hill F coming out this month, as of the time this recording, I'm recording this on September 2nd of 2025. It's a good chance that Silent Hill Elf might be the game of the year for me, although Clair Obscur Expedition 33 is already up there for me. But nonetheless, I really enjoyed the way this game looks. I loved hearing a lot of the classic lines from Snake, from Eva, from the boss, from Major Tom, or Major Zero rather, Paramedic. The whole cast. It's, Josh Keaton as Ocelot is definitely one of my favorite. He's one of my favorite voice actors out there. But, hearing everyone deliver their lines again, even though a lot of it was just lifted from the original release, and there was a couple things that they had to do re-recording. So David Hayter had to go back in the booth and re-record certain things. As he said, he had to match his voice to like what he sounded like 20 years ago. And I also know that there were some things where he wanted to re-record a lot of his lines because of having 20 plus more years of experience in voice acting versus what he had, back when he originally did the recordings back in, I want to say probably 2002, maybe even 2001. I don't know. But nonetheless, it just sounded good. He was able to perfectly match his voice. And it was just great. Really being able to be immersed in this world again was really awesome. The other thing I want to touch on is the way that the game plays. Now, you have the option of playing this with the classic style or legacy style, which is basically what it played like when you played it on the PlayStation 2, the original Snake Eater release, not Subsistence, but with Snake Eater. And honestly, I found that to be, honestly, I loved it. I'm being completely honest. I loved it because it let me step into the DeLorean and really go through and be like, okay, this is what this feels like. This is cool and whatnot. It took me back to 2004, and I can't really complain about it because it's like a time capsule of what they had to deal with the limitations of the hardware and just delivering that top down experience, which is essentially what Metal Gear 1 and 2 were. Solid 1, Solid 2, and Solid 3 initially were that. Now, Subsistence is where they changed that formula to have the third person perspective, where we eventually got more of that with Portable Ops and Portable Ops Plus, Peace Walker, 4, Ground Zeroes, and also with the Phantom Pain, right? So this is eventually where we got to, but that started with Subsistence, which is where I'm going to go with the new play style. When you select that, it asks you have a list of options. Which Metal Gear do you prefer playing? Do you prefer Solid 1, Solid 2, Solid 3, 4, Peace Walker, 5? Really, it asks you, what do you personally prefer? And when you or if you don't want to select them individually, you can also select which one out of those that you personally prefer to experience. Or rather, you get to select if you want to, you like all Metal Gear, which is the one I selected, which gave me a very unique play style, which is similar to Subsistence, slightly similar to Metal Gear Solid 5, but it is its own unique beast. And that's what I played through primarily on all platforms I played this on. I had an absolute blast playing it on there. And, it basically gave you the third person over the shoulder perspective, which made sneaking really easy. It made, pulling off headshots. Now, there is a difference. If you play this in the third person mode or the new play style versus legacy, if you're shooting, so like if you're using, like me, I try to go through non-lethal runs with the Tranquilizer Dark or the Mark II Hush Puppy, right? When I'm going through it like that, if you're playing it in the new play style, your bullets have a drop. So that's with anything from the Mark 22 Hush Puppy to, your pistol, your other pistols, your other guns, like literally everything has drop shots. So you just have to plan around that unless you're significantly closer or you just know how the trajectory of the arc is going to be. Now, if you play in legacy mode, you don't have to deal with the drop shot whatsoever. So your Mark 22 Hush Puppy can literally be your sniper and all around what you use for everything. It's literally how that is. Like you don't have to worry about anything with that. You're never going to get that drop shot. You just have to deal with how much more different, and that, I think that's also something I want to touch on is the difference in difficulty level when it comes to playing legacy versus the new play style. Now, the new play style, even though you can select your difficulty there, it is in a way, if you play it on normal, it is substantially easier to play that than it is to play on legacy mode. Because legacy mode, like I said, top-down perspective, similar to the classic Metal Gears as well as the original Snake Eater released from 2004. So when you're playing it like that, you only have a limited field of view where you can see everything. And with that limited field of view, you're kind of like, okay, so I need to go here and then I need to switch to first person perspective so I can see everything out there so I can know where people are here and there. And then, I can proceed. You got to constantly start, stop to be able to get through an area. So it has its bonuses, it has its disadvantages, but that is a harder play style than playing with the new controls and a new camera perspective, which is essentially is a modified 5 and subsistence play style with the third person with the shoulder. So with that, I personally feel like it really comes down to you, what you personally prefer playing as. With me, I like the new play style just because, I don't want to have to constantly start stop. If I want to do that, I'm going to go back and play Snake Eater or Subsistence and play it that way. Other than that, this is literally, I know a lot of people will probably compare Delta to Silent Hill 2 remake that came out, which Silent Hill 2 remake was a different interpretation of Silent Hill 2 compared to the original it released in 2001. Those two games are not one to one, but they do complement each other. And I would honestly say if you're going to play 2 remake of Silent Hill, then play the original first and then play that. And that way you can honestly appreciate all the subtle nods and the callbacks to the original within the remake. Now, when it comes to Metal Gear Solid 3 or Metal Gear Solid Delta Snake Eater, that to Snake Eater from 2004 or even Subsistence is literally a one-to-one remake. There is no differences other than graphics, playstyles, slightly different recorded lines, and whether you're playing this on PlayStation, PC, or Xbox, which grants you Snake versus Monkey or Snake versus Bomberman, which you might think, oh, they're the same thing. They actually are very different. I will show you the gameplay footage here so you can understand how different those two mini games are, because they are very different compared to one another. Whereas when you're playing Snake versus Monkey, it's very similar to Ape Escape, which is where that originally came from. That was in the original release, right? Where you're going around, you're shooting the monkeys with like a taser to stun them, run up, grab them. You get the same sound effect from Ape Escape. Whereas on playing Snake versus Bomberman, you run around throwing bombs, and it's got the cross grid layout like it is in Bomberman, where you have to throw it. If they're within the vicinity of hitting that of the blast radius, then they get captured and blown out the arena, which is very similar to how Bomberman is in general. However, they also can throw bombs at you. So keep that in mind. But yeah, while these are 2 great multiplayer modes, I just have to let you guys know that they are fundamentally different in their mechanics. And the only way to experience the totality of Metal Gear Solid Delta is to literally play it on both platforms. So we're all play it on PlayStation, play it on Xbox, or play it on Xbox, play it on PC, right? So that's where you are. Now, I also want to talk about the fact that let's see what else I want to touch on the performance of this on a handheld gaming PC. Now, I don't have a Steam Deck. I have the ROG Ally as well as the Lenovo Legion Go and the Lenovo Legion Go S. Shout out to Lenovo for sending it over to me, and I'm also a Lenovo content creator. I'm partnered with Lenovo. So I played it on the Legion Go and Legion Go S, and honestly, I didn't really run into any performance issues. I will say I had to dial the graphic settings down to the lowest setting. And by putting them on the lowest setting, I was able to crank up the performance, turn on the setting to performance, and honestly, I was able to get a good, like a solid 40 frames per second, like the golden 40. And it didn't matter whether I was in indoor environment or outdoor environment. I didn't really run into issues of slowdown or any type of stutters or performance issues whatsoever. It ran fine. Now, it wasn't anywhere near as detailed as it is on console or PC, like a standard gaming desktop or gaming laptop, but the performance is good. I would say battery life, if I'm playing on the original Lenovo Legion Go, I could get like maybe an hour and a half of battery life. On the Legion Go S, about an hour 45 to an hour and 50 of battery life before it just completely drains it. And on the ROG Ally, about 45 minutes to an hour. Performance wise, I would say between the Legion Go S, which I have the one at 32 gigs, and it's got the Z2, was it the Z2E, the Z2E Extreme 2 processor or performance processor. So that one ran far better than it did on the original Legion Go, but it was a peg higher than the ROG Ally. So keep that in mind. Now, as far as how it runs on Steam Deck, I don't know. I would say check out, someone who has a Steam Deck that can talk about it, but playing on the Legion Go S, which I have the Steam OS version, it was already it ran perfectly fine for me. Now, that's just how I'm experiencing it. Now, other than that, what downsides do I have about this? Now, I that's the thing is I can't really say that I ran into any particular issues with how this game, with or really complain about anything regarding this game because I personally felt like it ran perfectly fine in my opinion. The only thing I can say is I want more Metal Gear, if that makes sense. That's the only downside is once I beat this, I'm like, man, I want more. That's it. That's really all I can come to as far as the downside. Like I said, I didn't have performance issues. I think the game is a perfect length. It's a true one-to-one recreation. Maybe the Metal Gear fandom stopped crying so much because, like you guys said, we weren't gonna get, and maybe it's the Kojima stands. That could be it. But that's the thing is the team that made this gave so much love and respect to Kojima, acknowledging him throughout the whole thing, which is something maybe Konami from a decade ago would not have done. Because I mean, look at the Metal Gear Solid 5 debacle. But this all throughout they acknowledge him. So pick and choose. I don't know which fandom can be more annoying and toxic, if it's the Metal Gear Solid fandom or if it's the Silent Hill fandom. They have this thing where if it's not the original team, then they don't respect it or it's not the true experience. But it's annoying. All that being said, though, I will say that if we were to compare the remake of Metal Gear Solid 1, which was Metal Gear Solid The Twin Snakes, to Metal Gear Solid Delta, then Delta is the superior remake that stays so true to the original, captures us the spirit and soul of the original, whereas Twin Snakes is a whole different beast than Metal Gear Solid 1. I still think it's a great game, but nonetheless, it's a totally different beast because Twin Snakes basically took Sons of Liberty's gameplay, placed it into Metal Gear Solid 1 with that new code of painting, completely new cutscenes, re-recorded dialogue thanks to David Hayter, who gave up a large portion of his paycheck to do that, and literally made it so that it is different. And this is kind of like, Kojima wanted it to be a lot different because he's able to do with it what he couldn't do with the original. But it lost a lot of its grittiness and it's more anime-esque in a way, more meat, which it pulled on a lot of. If you weren't alive then, The Matrix was the hot thing that everyone, bullet time. I mean, we saw it with Max Payne copying that, Dead to Rights, like so many different mediums, TV shows, games, and everything copying what The Matrix did. So that was a time to be alive, right? But it was a different beast. Whereas Metal Gear Solid Delta is a one-to-one, for all intents and purposes, upgraded in a way that modern fans can appreciate it. And you've got so much to it. The story, I know I didn't touch on the story. I'm not going to touch on the story because I want you to experience it. And granted, it's been out for 20 something years, the original Metal Gear Solid 4, or Metal Gear Solid 3 rather. But still, I'm someone who's like, hey, go out and play these games and experience them yourselves. It's one of the best stories in gaming. It's one, in my opinion, the greatest stories in Metal Gear history. It's a toss up between Metal Gear 2, Solid Snake, and Metal Gear 3, as far as, for me personally, as best storylines. But all that being said, I absolutely loved this game. I had a blast playing it. It was great to go back and relive these memories. But all that being said, thank you to Konami for providing me a review code for the game on Xbox. And I look forward to working with you guys more in the future. And, this is the second Metal Gear I've ever got to cover with my content creator career. The first one was Metal Gear Solid Survive, which Konami mailed to me. That was crazy. That was back in, like I said, like 8 years ago or so. So that was crazy. So I'm very grateful for the opportunity to, and I still have it somewhere over here in my collection. But yeah, that all that being said, and I know there are people who have complaints about the statue or the way Snake looks, but I'm also not one of these people that likes to complain about stuff. I don't see a need in complaining about everything. If it's for you, cool. If it's not for you, it's not for you. Keep it moving and go on to focus on things that you enjoy. Like shut up and play some video games. That's all I gotta say. All that being said, let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below. If this is something you're looking to pick up, I will have affiliate links so you can pick it up. No additional cost to you, but I do get a little bit of kickback, which helps out the channel. And all that being said, yeah, catch you guys on the next one. I'll see you guys on the next one. Make sure you go check out the interview I did with my friend David Hayter. And all that being said, hey, have a great one. Peace out. Mahui ho. And age has not slowed you down. Catch you guys on the next one.